3 o'clock in the morning, the Red Sea. Latitude 16 degrees north. Water temperature 28 degrees. Visibility 0. The destroyer USS Carney is heading north. On board are 180 crew members and one of the most expensive air defense systems in human history. Aegis radars scan the horizon. All is quiet. Then a signal. Then another. And another. Drones take off from Houthi coastal control posts. Each costs between $2,000 and $5,000, the size of a lawnmower, with a wooden hull and a motorbike engine. In response, the USS Carney fires SM-2 and SM-6 missiles. Each one costs between $1.5 and $4 million. The maths is simple. The winner of this equation is obvious. Only this winner is not the one you'd expect. We're not chasing headlines. We analyze the doctrine behind them. By the end of this video, you will understand 3 things. Why the world's richest navy is losing an economic war to a tribal movement from Yemen. Why American air defense missile stockpiles are critically depleted right now. And what this means for the standoff with China in the Taiwan Strait. Let's take a look at exactly what the US Navy is working with. The SM-6 is an interceptor missile. It is 5.5 meters long, roughly the size of an average city bus standing upright. It weighs just over a ton. Speed 3.5 Mach. Range around 400 kilometers. Price $4 million each. This isn't just a missile, it's a flying supercomputer with active radar guidance, capable of simultaneously engaging targets in the air, on the water, and underwater. The Patriot PAC-3 system is its ground-based counterpart. A single battery covers an area the size of several football pitches. A single interceptor costs between $3 and $6 million. It takes up to 12 months to manufacture a single Patriot missile at the Raytheon factory. And now, the enemy. The Iranian-designed Shahed-136 kamikaze drone, actively used by the Houthis. Its wingspan is 2.5 meters, roughly the same as your wardrobe doors when opened wide. Speed 200 kilometers per hour. Warhead weight 50 kilograms. Price between $2,000 and $20,000, depending on the variant. Wooden and plastic structural components. Low thermal signature, minimal radar signature. It flies low, it flies slowly, and there are many of them flying at the same time. This raises a question that needs to be asked directly. Why does American air defense, designed to counter Soviet cruise missiles and fighter jets, have such problems with a lawnmower fitted with a Honda engine? The answer lies in fundamental engineering logic. Imagine you are a hunter. Your gun is loaded with a single gold bullet worth $1 million. The target is a mosquito. You can hit it, but you physically cannot reload quickly enough if there are 100 mosquitoes, and every shot costs more than the entire house you are defending. The Aegis and Patriot systems were designed for a different kind of war. For a war where the enemy flies fast, high, and is expensive. Where precision guidance matters, not the number of interceptions. A kamikaze drone flies slowly, 200 kilometers per hour. That is slower than many anti-missile systems are even designed to track at low altitudes. It flies low, below the horizon curvature for shipborne radars. It has a small radar signature. A swarm of 20 drones is not 20 targets. It is 20 decisions per second that system operators must make, each costing several $1 million. Analyst Brian Clark of the Hudson Institute put it bluntly in a 2024 report. The US Navy's current air defense strategy is structurally deficient against swarm threats. The ratio of interception costs to the value of the threat makes it unsustainable over any sustained timescale. In its analysis of operations in the Red Sea, the RAND Corporation highlighted a systemic problem. The production capacity of the US defense industry was not designed to cope with the rate of missile consumption even in a limited conflict with a non-state actor. This is not a new idea. It is an idea that has long been studied, and which, it seems, people forgot to take seriously. Let's go back to 1982. The Falklands War. Argentina deployed French Exocet anti-ship missiles costing around $200,000 each. 2 missiles sank the British destroyer HMS Sheffield, worth £200 million. The ratio was 1,000 to 1. The British Navy used up most of its Sea Dart anti-aircraft missiles in a few days of intense operations. This was despite the fact that the enemy was using expensive manned aircraft, not cheap drones. Now apply this logic to a drone costing $2,000 against a missile costing $4 million. The 2019 NATO Ramstein alloy exercises showed that in a simulation of swarm attacks by unmanned aerial vehicles, the alliance's forces exhausted their stockpile of interceptors within the first 72 hours of intense conflict. This was an exercise, not a war. The data was classified, but fragments found their way into a public analytical report by the German SWP Foundation in 2021. Now for the maths. The very maths they don't show on the news. One drone costs $2,000. A single SM-6 interceptor costs $4 million. That's a ratio of 2,000 to 1. To repel a swarm of 100 drones with 100% interception efficiency, it would cost $400 million. The swarm itself cost $200,000. The Houthis aren't trying to sink an aircraft carrier. They're trying to bankrupt the air defense system. Between October 2023 and early 2024, US ships in the Red Sea used up more than 100 interceptor missiles, costing between $300 and $400 million. These are official figures announced in the US Congress. Raytheon's production capacity for Patriot PAC-3 missiles is around 500 units per year. Ukraine, Taiwan, Poland, Israel, South Korea, all are queuing up for these same missiles. Every missile fired in the Red Sea is one fewer available to the Indo-Pacific Command, INDOPACOM. Before we move on to the main point, I want to ask you a direct question. This crisis is no secret. The Pentagon knows about it. Congress knows about it. Think tanks have been publishing reports on this since 2020. And yet, the defense industry's production base was not scaled up in advance. What do you think? Did the US defense industry miss the mark, or did it deliberately choose not to act? Write one of these two words in the comments. Simply missed or chose. It's important for me to understand how our audience assesses the situation, and be sure to read the comments. There's an interesting discussion there. Perhaps you're thinking right now, that's all far away. The Red Sea, Yemen, the Houthis, what's it got to do with me? Around 12% of global trade passes through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. That's oil. That's containers full of electronics. That's grain. It's the coffee you brew in the morning. Since late 2023, the major container lines, Maersk, MSC, CMAC, GM, have rerouted their vessels around the Cape of Good Hope. This adds 2 to 3 weeks to every voyage. This is directly reflected in freight costs, which by early 2024 had risen 3- or 4-fold on some routes. These are not abstract figures. This is the cost of your new television. This is the price of a car part. This is the waiting time for a medicine made from components produced in Asia. Houthis with unmanned lawnmowers are reshaping global supply chains. And they are doing so deliberately, realizing that economic pressure is sometimes more effective than military force. Asymmetric warfare has long since moved beyond the battlefield. It is being waged through fuel prices, delivery delays, and shipping insurance premiums. Now, the bigger picture. Everything we've discussed today, the Red Sea, drones, the shortage of Patriot missiles, is not a standalone story. It's a chapter in a much larger book. The US Strategic Command in the Indo-Pacific region, INDOPACOM, bases its entire defense concept on a single assumption: a sufficient stockpile of interceptor missiles to cover the Taiwan Strait and the chain of islands in the South China Sea. Every SM-6 missile fired at a Yemeni drone costing $2,000 is a missile missing from the 7th Fleet's arsenal. It is a missile that does not cover Guam. It does not cover Okinawa. It does not cover Japan. Beijing is watching this closely. Analysts from the NATO Institute for Strategic Studies point out explicitly: right now, whilst American air defense stocks are being depleted in the Red Sea, the Chinese People's Liberation Army is conducting exercises in swarm attacks by drones on a scale incomparable to Houthi operations. The Houthis are the rough draft. China is studying the blueprint. What is happening in the Red Sea today is not a war over shipping routes. It is a testing ground for a war that may happen tomorrow, in another sea, with numbers an order of magnitude greater. Subscribe if you believe that military analysis should explain physics and mathematics rather than peddle fear. See you in the next issue.